You can see the title down below. I'm reading off Dan Drazen's review of 238. A lot of you, if you look here on my channel, you'll just type in Dan Drazen or Dan Drazen's, like you see here, and you'll see some other reviews and stuff I've talked about. But this is 238, in case some of you don't know, is the second part. It's the second part of 237, basically the Wolfpack Fidel situation. And if this goes into two parts, I will apologize, because right now YouTube has my main channel on a 15-minute time limit due to copyright circumstances that hopefully will be cleared up in the next few months. But this is what he says. This is Dan Drazen's, and this is what he says, and I quote, Sonic the Hedgehog number 238, August 2012. Tracy Yardlin, Terry Austin, Matt Herms did the cover, which features Sonic vs. Mecha Sally, Amy Rose vs. Eggman, and Tails vs. Draco. It all looks good enough, and there's a nice balance involving this number of characters on one cover. One of Sally's blades gives me the impression that Tracy Yardlin has been watching too many overhyped 3D movies. The gimmick works no better on the cover of a comic book than on an insufficiently lightened movie screen. And then there's Sonic. I'm sorry, but his facial expression just kills what otherwise would have been an acceptable cover. Well, if you consider, according to one person, the original cover had Sonic shed a tear, and that would probably be the answer why. Amy, Rose, and Tails look... Hold on for a second. Hold on a second, folks. Hold on. But never mind, there she is. I don't know where she went. Might have been while I wasn't looking, I don't know. We're looking for my dog, I'm sorry about that. I was about to stop and restart, but we're cool. And if anybody's wondering, I'm a shooter, so take it for what it is. But anyway, let's see. Oh yeah. Amy, Rose, and Tails both look angry enough, but I don't know what emotion Sonic was supposed to be conveying here. Well, Dan, if you watch this, he was supposed to have, like I mentioned just a moment ago, he was supposed to have a tear in his eyes, in his, I think his left eye. That was supposed to be the original. And you do kind of point that out here, but that was originally supposed to be what it was supposed to look like. Now Dan says, continuously says, and I quote, yes, he's probably still suffering from mixed emotions or mixed feelings in every fight against Sally since her mecha conversion. But this is seriously overdone and unfocused. A bad combination. But this is serious... Okay. Alright, oh, here we are. I'm just trying to find where I looked at. This is the worst facial expression on a Sonic cover since the infamous Sonic 49, where Dulcie wore an expression that left me thinking she was suffering from terminal conception. Sonic's expression alone makes this a contender for worst cover art of 2012. Continuing on, and I quote, Loyalty, Part 2, Dire Choices. Dire Choices. I want anybody that's never read this issue yet to keep that in mind when it says dire choices. Keep that in mind. Because it might be something that Dan points out that I don't think some of us kind of figured out because we're so caught up in whether the story arc is good or not. But it says Loyalty, Part 2, Dire Choices. Story is by Amy Flynn, art Steve Butler, ink Terry Austin, color Matt Herms, lettering John E. Workman, assistant editor Vincent Lovey, editor Paul Kaminsky, editor-in-chief Victor Golick, Howling Wolf, Mike Perithro, Sega licensing reps Anthony Gusha and Cindy Chow. All right. This is his review. This is Dan Drazen's review, and I quote. Last time we left Loop in Eggman's body shop for some extreme. Okay, last time we left Loop in Lupe in Eggman's body shop for some extreme detailing. When word comes in that Sonic is on his way with not a whole lot of the repairing and refueling accomplished. Sorry about that. Eggy leaves Loop on the rack for the time being. Outside, Sonic and his crew storm the base and make short work of the guards until Razor Claw shows up demanding a one-on-one with Sonic. Inside, Loop faces the grim fate of being bored to death by Draco. She gives him a reality check. Which is enough of a distraction, which is enough of a distraction to let him get clocked by Lyco, one of the wolf twins. Draco had committed the fashion flux pause of wearing the Cat's Queen's royal threads. In other words, he was desecrating them. She retrieves them, but decides to wait until after the escape before she does a little turn on the catwalk. Tails has just finished installing a tracking device on the Death Egg when Sally shows up. She bats Teapup aside and gets the same treatment from Tails. Or gives the same treatment to Tails, I don't know. I'll provide a link down below to this review so you guys can read it yourselves. Let's see. This might have bogged down into a lot of one-on-one fighting and dialogue, except that the Standby 2 launch order goes out. Sal then spells out their options, which really boil down to one option: to forget about her and clear out. They agree pretty quickly, and the group catches up to Sonic. Sally hooks up to Eggy, who's bemoaning the setback, but all it takes is for Sally to say, quote-unquote, divide and conquer, to give Eggy an idea. Meanwhile, Sonic has brought Hathor to a group of Fidel and Wolves who form a coalition of the useless, since it looks like the few baddies who were chasing them go into retreat mode. This pretty much leaves Hathor and Loop to patch things up despite a thick base coat of animosity. Sonic declines an invitation to chill because they need to track Eggman. After they take off, Loop recruits Lyco and Lita for Harvey Who's team, which explains their appearance in the Sonic universe. Okay, that was his review. And you can pretty much tell when you read this or you're listening to what I just said, he's not too much thrilled about it. But he does bring up some good points about something that we'll find out in just a little bit in his scoring card. Now, the way he scores this, ladies and gentlemen, is by 3 categories. In case you don't know, it's heart score, it's head score, eye score, and heart score. And basically the top that you can get in each is 10. So if you can get a 10 in each category, which is equal up to 30, then you pretty much have done a great job. Now if you have 2 stories in there, and you have 30, and you get a score of 30 in both stories, out of all 3 categories, then you pretty much have a score of 60, which says either way, if it's just a single story or 2 stories, that you pretty much have given a great story. You've done a great job overall. Alright, but this is how he scores it. Let me check my time here, folks, because like I said, I'm going to probably have to do this in 2 parts. Okay, I'm trying to see here. Yeah, I got about 4 more minutes here. 4 more, so hold on, folks. Alright, let's take a look at the head score, and again, I may have to separate this in 2 parts. But here's the head score. This is how he scores the head. This is how he gets the score in the head part. He says, honestly, this is what he talks about in the head category. And this is what he says, and I quote, honestly, was there any doubt that Sonic and the Gang would pull this one out? That's not really an issue in this comic. What they expected is par for the course. So it comes down to how the expected comes to pass. With a single exception in the story, it's still the same old, same old. It's still the same old, same old. Sonic and his crew fight the minions and Robotnik runs away. We don't even get to see the Death Egg fly away this time. There's only one interesting bit in this story. When Tails is, quote-unquote, battling Sally, and they get a 1-minute warning, she does something that I don't recall her doing in any earlier installments. She reasons with Tails and company. Wouldn't it have been simpler to break off the fight and leave the Mobians to their fate? To me, this is either padding out the story by Ian Flynn, or else a very juicy clue that Sally is not lost to us, but is instead playing her part. More on this in the heart section. I hate to say this, but this story arc is losing momentum. There have been upsticks, such as when Antron got blown up, even if he didn't die as a result. But one of the big issues with an extended story arc is pacing, and the pacing is beginning to slip. It can always pick up, but repeating the same basic shtick isn't the way to do it. The world-building details about Fendel culture might be interesting, but they do nothing to move the story forward. It's just padding. This is getting old. Head score, 5. So, right now it's a score of 5. Doesn't look so good, huh? No, you're looking at the time now. Okay, I got about a minute and a half to go. Alright, the I score. Stephen Butler's, this is his comment on the I score. In other words, the I score is the artistic score. The artwork. And this is what he says about it in the I category. Stephen Butler's work is best summed up in the flying kick by one of the Wolf twins on page 3. It's very dramatic and very effective. Score 10. So he's given it a 15. Pretty good. The heart score. Let me check my time before I get into this. Okay, I'm going to probably have to switch this over to the second part right now.